Well, the mercury is rising here in St. Louis, Missouri. The Brewers have an opportunity to do the same in the standings. It's the Brewers and the Cardinals from Busch Stadium on FSN North. And for Milwaukee tonight, all eyes on Ben Sheets. His first two starts back have been outstanding. As a matter of fact, you want to talk about a challenge. How about a matchup later on of Ben Sheets against Albert Pujols? Well, hello there once again, everybody. Alongside my broadcast partner, Bill Schroeder, my name is Darren Sutton. Glad to have you with us from Busch Stadium. Now, when you look at the Milwaukee Brewers, since the big trade, we'll call it, the Brewers are 4-3, but one constant has been the bullpen. The bullpen ERA just over 2.5. Why?
Well, the effectiveness of your entire bullpen is a result of two things. How much are they used? The fact that the Brewer rotation is intact with Ben Sheets and Tomoka back. Everybody doesn't have to be out there in the third, fourth, fifth inning like it was early in the season. The other thing is the reliability of your closer. Is Ned Yost confident enough to be able to put everybody in the spot that they're supposed to be? Schaus and Kolb and everybody else, Derek Turnbow, Matty Wise, everybody able to be used when they're supposed to, knowing that your closer is going to get the job done in the ninth inning.
Ned's made it very clear. I will match up along the way to get to Cordero at the end. Those are the five that really picked up Doug Davis last night. The bullpen right now, it has been a big-time struggle this year. They are a big-time positive for the Milwaukee Brewers, as is Prince Fielder. Since that big trade that we talked about, the Brewers have definitely needed offense. Well, they've gotten it from the rookie first baseman.
Well, ever since the beginning of the second half, Prince Fielder again trusts his hands like he did early in the first half. Right before the All-Star break, he was a little bit slow at the bat, swinging pitches out of the strike zone, trying to pull a little bit too much. In yesterday's ball game, he took a Carpenter fastball away right back to the middle. As a result, Carpenter came inside on him later on in the game, and that's when he made his big noise.
And because of that, there is no better hitter since the All-Star game was played in Pittsburgh in the second half than Prince Fielder. Well, we're glad you're with us. We're just getting started. A little bit of a later first pitch, so when we come back, a two-part conversation with one of the newer Brewers. Boy, was he dependable last night with the glove and the bat. We'll chat with Tony Graffinino, and it's the Crew and the Cards right after this. And just 24 years old out of USC, Anthony Reyes is completing his warm-up tosses. They hope that the world will lie at his feet. He certainly has the stuff, but has struggled of late. Ned Yost realizing this is a big-time series, talking about what he has lost this year with regard to injury, saying, I think about it for about 2 minutes, that it's time to move on. Well, let us move on into tonight's ball game. Starting lineup is brought to you by GMC. Gabe Gross, Tony Graffinino, a big night last night. Then it's Fielder, Mensch, and Hall. Jenkins, Bell, and Miller, and Ben Sheets bats ninth. He is on the mound, and a little bit more on Anthony Reyes.
Yeah, this young man has a good live arm. He throws hard. He's got a good breaking ball. He's bounced back and forth between AAA and the major leagues. Some say he's going to be a good one at some point. You see his numbers, a 4.58 earned run average. He's 2-5, giving up 8 home runs, but still in all, this guy's got all the ability in the world. As you take a look at the Dodge scouting report, he's got good fade on his fastball. He likes to keep it away from left-handed batters. He'll run it in on righties. Got a good change to go with a curveball, and he likes to work away predominantly. He's also going to throw that changeup to righties and left-handers.
So Reyes just about ready to go. It's Gabe Gross, Tony Graffinino, and Prince Fielder. Ned Yost feeling tonight that Gross might have been a better matchup at the top of the order, and Brady Clark will start tomorrow in center field against Jeff Suppan. Well, we're glad you're with us, and we are underway at Busch Stadium as the first pitch misses wide. 1-0 the count to Gross. This is the 7th time this year Gabe Gross has batted leadoff for the Milwaukee Brewers. And there you see the numbers. He certainly has deserved to see a lot of action. He is heating up as the temperature heats up all around the country. 2-0 the count. Gross 2 for 5 on this trip. And in his last 34 games, or about a month worth of baseball, hitting .333. There's a strike. 2-1 to count.
And Ned Yost has made it very clear that he's going to play the hot hand out there in center field. You've got another guy swinging the bat pretty well that would like to get an opportunity, Tony Gwynn Jr. Another base hit yesterday in a pinch hitting role.
Infield, outfield, just about straight up, and it's 2-2. These Cardinals have dropped 8 consecutive games. Stunning, you betcha. I mean, they still are in first place in the National League Central. But twice this year they have lost 8 games in a row. They have lost 9 games in a row since 1980. And that's how much success has been tied with Cardinals baseball. Brewers hope to make it not only 9 in a row, but make it 10 in a row and get on out of town.
And it's been a combination of all of the different aspects of the game, as you see on that graphic right there. 9 errors in their last 8 games. That's very unlike the Cardinals.
Rose goes down on strikes. Let's take a look at the defense working behind Anthony Reyes. Just about straight up ground balls to fly balls, so everyone is in play, especially David Eckstein. Roland and Belliard sandwich him, and Albert Pujols is at first. Spezio, Edmonds, and Duncan the outfield, and former Brewer and a fine catcher, Gary Bennett, is behind home plate. Just enough is what they nicknamed David Eckstein. The arm just enough, the range just enough, and the heart bigger than this ballpark. 0-1 the count on Tony Graffinino.
And anchors a normally very good defensive unit for the Cardinals, up in the top 5 and defensively in team fielding percentage, but it really has not been the best play that they've had in this 8-game losing streak. You know, pitching, offense has been down. Nothing really working all that well for the Cardinals right now.
1-1 the count on Graffinino. And now in the hole 1-2. As you see, Graffy 10 for 32 since joining this club. Right about a week and a half ago from the Kansas City Royals, Jorge De La Rosa. Talented left-hander, went to Kansas City and is fitting into their rotation. They're in a different place there. Outside, it's 2-2.
It was he and Prince Fielder in yesterday's ball game that were responsible for most of the offense. A big 2-out base hit for Graffinino to extend an inning, allow Prince Fielder to come up and hit that 2-run homer. He's doing a nice job making contact.
That's what he's done throughout his whole career. As he sat there in the interview you heard just a moment ago, you could see a bit of reflection. I mean, when you come to the big leagues, you have the bright eyes with the big lights, and you dream of being a starter for the Atlanta Braves, and it doesn't work out that way. What do you do next? How do you handle yourself next? Well, if you adapt to team after team and become a wonderful team player, then I think you're going to play for a long time. And that's what he's done.
A good guy, utility guy that can play all over the infield, and he'll give you a nice at bat. And the Brewers very thankful that they have him, since Ricky Weeks has been placed on a disabled list. No telling when he'll be back. There's that changeup we were talking about on the scouting report. That's a good one. That's
oh,
good.
You bet.
Circle changeup, has good sink as it gets to home plate. He throws it just like the fastball, but just doesn't get there. He chokes it back in his hand, and Graffinino way out in front.
And that pitch almost had a little bit of split-fingered fastball action on it to boot. So it slows down, and it also dives a bit. And here's the red-hot Prince Fielder. 1-0 the count to Prince. 28 hits since the All-Star break. 5 of those 28 hits home runs. As we told you in our open, the best hitter in all of the major leagues since the Classic was played in Pittsburgh. Hard to argue with that. I think the rest served him well.
And the reason for that, as we mentioned many times since that All-Star break, he's trusting his hands again. The bat speed's there and allowing the ball to get back into the hitting zone. As a result, swinging at strikes.
And I'll be glad to continue to mention it the entire second half, right? That means he's still hitting.
Yeah, you bet. Very quick bat. Able to wait back and get that bat through the zone. Hitting the ball all over the ballpark from foul line to foul line.
And then, as you pointed out in our open, when you make a mistake in, he'll hit it in the seats.
Yeah, he did a nice job yesterday. Carpenter in Prince's first at bat went away from him. He hit a line drive bullet into left center. His next 2 at bats, Carpenter tried to come in on him, knowing that he has the ability to take the outside pitch to the opposite field. He came in on him, and Prince got 2 nice base hits, 1 a home run.
Fielder walks for the 35th time this year. That on-base percentage now creeps up and over 350 to go along with those 21 home runs and a near 300 batting average. You know, Kevin Mench wants to get going. He did drive in a run with the sac fly last night, but he is hitless on this road trip. 0 for 12.
Yeah, it just looks as though he's trying to do too much, trying to impress right away after that trade, and as a result, pulling that shoulder out like that right there. I mean, trying to hit every ball out of the ballpark. He did a better job in yesterday's game, according to Butch Weininger, trying to take the ball back through the middle and to right center. Way out in front of that breaking ball.
The pride of Delaware in the hole, 0-1. Didn't mean to, but he rolls it out to Albert Pujols. To the bag, Mench is retired. Ben Sheets getting ready to go to work against the Cardinals. Bottom of the first inning, and Tony La Russa trying to get his team back on track. As we mentioned, losers of 8 consecutive games, these Cardinals have not lost 9 in a row since all the way back in 1980. David Eckstein, as always, is at the top of his batting order, brought to you by GMC. Raffanino, Pujols, and then, of course, Scott Rowland. Edmonds, Belliard, and Duncan. Gary Bennett catches. Anthony Reyes pitches. Ben Sheets on the mound.
And since returning from the disabled list, he's been lights out. He's 1-0 with a 1.8 ERA in 2 starts since returning from the DL. Now 1 walk and 15 strikeouts.
David Eckstein goes after the first pitch, and David Bell stays with it. Boy, a stutter step. Got his bearings, another stutter step, and right over that railing. That's a good play.
Yeah, he did. He fought that one all the way. Not sure if he saw it off the bat right away, but he went over there, ended up banging against that railing and making the catch. Good guy to get out, David Eckstein. He is the catalyst of this offense. Going back and forth, never taking his eyes off it and hauling it in.
Scott Spezio looks at a big shift defensively out there as Sheets misses inside.
A quick look at the Dodge scouting report. The curveball has been outstanding in his 2 starts. His velocity getting better every time out. Average about 92, 93, and he topped out about 97. He's thrown a few. And he struggled against the Cardinals, making his 19th start. He's 4-11 with a 4.11 ERA. He was 0-3 last year.
Yeah, with an asterisk by that 0-3, though. He pitched pretty good against St. Louis last year. And his last 5 starts have been a lot of bad luck. His last 5 outings against the St. Louis Cardinals. He sports a 2.4 ERA. He's just 1-4, though.
Yeah.
Another thing to look for Ben Sheets, Bill, is he's cutting the ball a little bit, running it into lefties occasionally.
Yep, he'll throw about a half a dozen of them, a half a dozen to 10 cut fastballs. He's getting more and more confident in that pitch every time he goes out.
Bill Hall under that one, and quickly 2 outs. Let's take a look at the defense working behind Big Ben. Our defense is brought to you by Rico. Ned Yost is thrilled with this club without an error in their last 7 games. Mensch, Gross, Jenkins, Bell, Hall, Graffi, and Fielder on the infield, and Damian Miller getting his 5th consecutive start.
Very important. You don't give these teams extra outs, particularly the Cardinals. They've been struggling offensively in this homestand. Have yet to win on this homestand. The Philadelphia Phillies swept them. Brewers won last night. They're just not scoring a lot of runs. Don't give them any extra chances.
Certainly true in front of a man like this. Albert Pujols has homered 33 times and has 87 RBIs. That was a changeup that he dropped in there for a strike. Benny seems to invent pitches against Albert Pujols, doesn't he?
Everybody does.
That's a good point.
Throw anything you can to try and confuse him a bit.
There's a reason for it. Pujols 19 for 49. That's a .388 batting average. He's homered 3 times. Ben has struck him out 12 times. This is the battle you look forward to. There was a shift on playing him to pull. Looked like a changeup that was up in the zone, and he slapped it to right field.
And Albert doing a nice job keeping the hands in and shooting it into right field. Trying to play and make the Brewers pay for that shift. Check it out. Up in the strike zone, a little inside-out stroke and a base hit to right for Albert. You don't mind giving up a single with 2 outs for Albert Pujols.
Isn't that part of the reason you do that?
At least you know where he's at first base and not circling the bases.
And that's part of the reason you set that shift up. I mean, it acts as a temptation, and Pujols takes up. Boy, he had a huge jump in the throw. Not in time for Albert Pujols. Stolen base number 5 of the year. You know, he got that big lead, was ignored, and he just took off on a walking lead and was gone.
Yep, well, you got to pay attention to him. I guess Ben Sheets figuring, Albert's not going anywhere with Rowland up there. Big old lead. He took off. He had a great jump, and Damian Miller probably best not to even throw that baseball. Cardinals don't run a whole lot, but they have stolen a couple of bases in this series.
And I like the Cardinals of the early 80s, no doubt about that. Rolling deep left field. Mensch spins a few times. It's over his head, and it's off the wall. Albert would have scored anyway. Scott Roller with a stand-up double. The Cardinals lead it 1-0. The first lead for the Cardinals since Saturday, 1 week ago, against the Chicago Cubs. They have not led in a game in a week.
And 2 outs and nobody on. You got Pujols and Rolen coming up. As a curveball out away from Scott Rolen. He stayed back long enough. He hooked it. In order to, that's how big and strong Scott Rolen is. He was out on his front foot, hit it off the end of the bat, and still hit a rope off the wall and left.
So for Rolen, 69 RBIs this year. And maybe I'm wrong, but I tend to think he would have scored anyway on that double without that stolen base.
It would have been a lot closer, that's for sure.
Good point.
You know, when he stole the base and was at second base, I mean, you know he's going to score, but still in all. Got to keep an eye on those base runners. You know, Tony La Russa is the kind of a guy that, although his team doesn't steal a lot, he knows that they're not scoring a lot of runs right now. He's going to try a few different things to get them going. Like having Albert Pujols steal a base. You know, sometimes you just can't sit back and wait for your guys to hit 3-run homers.
Pujols led the Cardinals in stolen bases last year with 18. 1-2 the count. There's a curveball, bounces, and Damian does a nice job. For Ben Sheets, those 2 starts, one against Cincinnati last time out. He went 8 innings, pitched into the 9th inning. So the Ken Griffey Jr. home run chased him from the game, but he struck out 10 in that outing. And he won 4-3. First outing back, 7 innings, 1 run, no walks, 5 strikeouts against the Pirates. He's only made 1 start on the road this year. Obviously, he missed the majority of the season due to injury. That 1 start against the New York Mets earlier this year. So a single, a stolen base, a double, and now a walk to Edmonds.
Only the 3rd walk issued by Ben Sheets all season long. You know, 3 walks to go along with 43 strikeouts, and it's only the 2nd walk since coming back from the DL. First 2 hitters, no problem for Ben, but it's been a struggle since that time.
Two outs, Ronnie Belliard. Fastball is high. Belliard acquired from Hector Luna just before the trading deadline from the Indians. 1 for 11 as a member of the Cardinals, as you can see. Hitting .285 overall this year. Homer Brewer.
And normally not a guy that you would expect to be in a 6th hole in the lineup, but Tony La Russa, while his team is struggling to score runs, Belliard having a tough time getting going. Typically a number 2 hitter. Good bat control. He hits the ball to the opposite field.
Catcher Gary Bennett cooling off in that dugout. Ben Sheets trying to work the breaking stuff down. And the count is 2-1. Scott Rolen with an RBI double, and the Cardinals lead it 1-0. High and outside, 3-1 the count. Ben Sheets early in the game, but it's a rarity, has thrown more balls than strikes. 12 balls and 10 strikes.
And the velocity for Sheets right now, 89 miles per hour, not throwing all that hard. You mentioned the top of the game, he's been throwing about 91, 92 miles per hour. Velocity way down right now, that one at 90.
This does not resemble so far the Ben Sheets that we have seen in his first 2 starts back. Already 23 pitches here in the first inning. Unfortunately, this more resembles the Ben Sheets that pitched in May against Houston, or the Ben Sheets that pitched in March against Oakland in a spring training game. And you hope that he just needs to get cranked up a bit.
Talking to Ben, he's saying that he's not happy with the velocity that he's been throwing at so far this year. He's been able to top out from time to time at about 97, but you know, he averages when he's healthy about 95, 96 miles per hour. Right now he's around 90. Not able to control his fastball either.
He'll work out of the stretch, and a curveball to Duncan is a strike. Chris Duncan at 289, 7 home runs, 19 RBIs. Hitless last night in the win for the Brewers. And he had a tough time with Doug Davis when he was out there. Breaking ball belted down the line, hugging that line. That is a foul ball.
That would have cleared the bases.
Boy, with 2 outs, everybody can take off from the crack of the bat.
You know, it's not uncommon to have Ben trying to establish that curveball early on and not have his best curveball, but kind of rolling up there here in the first inning. Breaking early and not a very sharp break. As a result, Duncan had a pretty good swing at this pitch. It's not the normal, very quick, straight down Ben Sheets curveball. Edelman almost cleared him.
See what he comes up with on 0-2. Bases loaded. Another curveball, and again stays a bit up in the zone, and it's foul. We have all watched Ben Sheets become a pitcher, not just a thrower. As he has gotten older, it's times like this, Bill, it's mandatory that you understand if your velocity is down, you've got to adapt. Inside corner, Duncan thought it was up. And that last fastball at 89 miles an hour, so the heat, it isn't there yet. It's all around us in this stadium, but not in that right arm of Ben Sheets, not yet. Bill Hall, Jeff Jenkins, and David Bell. You find yourself hoping the Brewers can score, but looking forward to seeing Ben throw again. Fouled off at home plate, got a piece of Bennett. 0-1 the count on Billy.
Ben Sheets very fortunate to get out of that inning, only allowing 1 run. I mean, the way things developed after the Cardinals had 2 outs and nobody on. That 3rd out, very hard to come by tonight.
Mike Maddox is on the phone to that bullpen, which is obviously not good news. Between innings, Ben went down into that tunnel, Ned Yost followed. Remember, the training staff followed as well. And the count is 1-1. Jeremy Gonzalez is going to start getting loose, and that's even worse news.
Yeah, that's not a good sign. You can tell it just wasn't the Ben Sheets that we've seen for 2 starts since coming back. Velocity down, curveball not very sharp, but we'll see what happens.
You hit it on the freaking head, dude.
1 ball and 2 strikes the count on Bill Hall. I didn't focus on the offense when something like this goes on. Those guys in the box are focused, though, and on 1-2, a breaking ball got it. 3 strikeouts already for the young right-hander.
Got all the pitches to be very good. It's just a matter of becoming consistent with them. 2 strikes. He throws a nice curveball on the outer half. Gary Bennett holds it there, and as you talked about, I mean, the Brewers are going to have to figure out a way to, stay back on that curveball, shoot it into right field.
As Gonzalez warms in the bullpen, Reyes to face Jeff Jenkins. Good-looking bender. Strike 1 to Jeff. Jeff 1 for 3 last night, mired in a 3 for 30 skid, though, that average at 255 and still in single digits in home runs. On August the 5th. Popped that one up. David Eckstein, an easy chance. 2 outs. David Bell walking toward home plate, acquired, as we heard from Tony Graffinito, to improve this team, make a run. We talked with David Bell about the team's chances the next month and a half.
I definitely see the talent level on this team and guys that maybe are young in baseball, in the major leagues, but have also some experience now, and I think they're trying to win this year, and I'm happy to be a part of that. I'm really happy to be here, and I like the team, and I think we have a chance, and that's all you can ask for this time of year.
And that's exactly why Doug Melvin added those veterans. As you get down the stretch, the Brewers right now at 5 games under 500. I mean, a year ago, the Brewers are probably about, 15, 16 games out of first place.
Yes, sir.
I mean, nobody really dazzling anybody in the National League. Only 5 teams over 500 in the entire league. So it's anybody's race right now. Guys like David Bell and Graffinino, you get Mensch, you get Cordero coming out of that bullpen. You have a lot of continuity, stability. You know what you're going to get with these guys. Good professional at bats. You're not going to make too many mistakes.
Fastball at the knees, 0-2 the count. And Joe said it simply before the game when asked about David Bell. I thought it was a perfect answer. David Bell's just a good baseball player. You know, from a baseball guy saying that, we all know what he means. He's not going to hurt you. You know, he's not going to hit 35 home runs, but his at-bats will always seem to improve the situation.
Well, an example of that was Graffinino in yesterday's ball game. You know, it was 2 outs and 2 strikes, a tough pitch from Carpenter yesterday. And he just got a piece of it and bounded the ball back through the middle, drove in a run, and that gave Prince Fielder the opportunity in the 6th inning to hit that 2-run homer. A good quality at bat, just hitting the ball where it's pitched.
0-2 the count on Bell. Moeller High School in Cincinnati. Came through there a couple of years after Ken Griffey Jr. did. Talk about a good run of baseball over a 5 or 6 year span. Griffey getting drafted out of there, then David Bell. I would imagine the Moeller Diamond was the place to be at that point. But Harry Larkin was prior to that.
A lot of scouts around there, though, you would imagine.
Ben Sheets just came back out.
Doesn't look good, does it?
It doesn't. We'll keep an eye on things. Let's see if he's going back to work. One of the most dreadful pictures we've shown you all year long. Ben Sheets pointing to that arm area to Tony Graffinino. And as we went to break, Ben Sheets getting up and walking away into the tunnel, up into the locker room. Ben Sheets is gone after 1 inning of work. We'll do our best to get the latest on why he was removed. Our U.S. Cellular call to the bullpen. Swingman Jeremy Gonzalez, you hope he can give you 4.
It's certainly. I mean, we talked about the bullpen and how effective they have been as of late, and that's in large part because the starting pitching has been able to eat up innings, and you have that stability in the closer's role with Cordero, and now all of a sudden with Ben Sheets experiencing some problems again, the bullpen's going to be asked to suck up a lot of innings here tonight. And a short turnaround, you got the day game tomorrow, and the Brewers fortunate that they have Monday off. I mean, this is the kind of a situation that can really affect your bullpen for an entire week.
I believe the word is right pectoral muscle for Ben Sheets. They just announced it. So now we've gone, unfortunately for Ben, we've gone all the way up the lat to the shoulder. Now we're coming down the front. Tightness in that right pectoral muscle is why he was removed from the ball game.
You just could tell it wasn't the Ben Sheets that we saw in his first 2 starts coming back. I mean, not a whole lot of zip on his fastball. The curveball didn't have that sharp bite to it. And as you mentioned, very similar to the start that he made against Oakland in Arizona. I mean, almost identical.
I mean, we hate it, you and I, that we can compare it. I mean, but the velocity on that day, everything appeared pretty hittable. Ben had a little bit more gumption. I mean, you're not going to kill yourself in a spring training game. If you don't feel it, you don't feel it. But Ben realized in front of 40+ thousand, he's pitching at Busch Stadium. So he certainly gave it a valiant effort, a little bit different than Oakland. But the velocity and the stuff, Bill, almost exactly the same. Gary Bennett waves at a slider, down and away. Good start for Gonzalez. As Bennett goes down on strikes.
And it's these situations that you're very fortunate to have Jeremy Gonzalez and Rick Helling out in that bullpen. I mean, 2 guys that can start games for you. They can both eat up 3 or 4 innings if need be. And Gonzalez has done an outstanding job in situations like this, eating up some very tough innings.
Gonzalez, 31 years old, out of Maracaibo in Venezuela. Hired earlier this season by the Milwaukee Brewers. Mike Adams was sent to the New York Mets. And of course, Rick Helling may be needed again in this game as well. 1-1 the count to Reyes, who is 1 for 13 with the bat in his hand this year. Gonzalez has pitched well for the Brewers. 12 appearances, 1 start, an ERA of 3.60. And it's been a fit for him because in New York this year, his ERA was up and over 7.5. He went around there and back-to-back strikeouts to start things off. Bennett and Reyes, and now it's David Eckstein.
And just a reminder, Gonzalez with the fastball, the curveball, the slider, and the changeup. He's a garden variety guy, not overpowering. Going to try and keep the ball down. The one thing he does very well, pound the zone. He doesn't mess around too much. Goes right after hitters throwing strikes.
And he's also a lively spirit in that locker room. Kevin Mensch, who is such a huge football fan, can't wait for the Eagles season to start, threw a football into his bag. You know Kevin went home, as we told you, to Dallas, Texas. And I would imagine he hit that garage, and in that suitcase he brought a football with him. And high school football star Bill Hall, before the game, was trying to train Jeremy Gonzalez in the art of throwing the spiral. Gonzalez was having fun with it. Fortunately, Bill Hall still has all his fingers. We'll just leave it at that. Because he was throwing more of a slider with that football.
Yeah, a little end over end, more like a kickoff.
But these spacious locker rooms, folks, you could be throwing a football around at the Fenway Park visiting locker room or at Wrigley Field. You'd knock over 9 TVs. How about striking out the side? Throw it like a football. Do whatever it takes.
And it's time for our Piggly Wiggly game reset. Anthony Reyes with 4 strikeouts, including 2 in the first inning. Gross and Graffinino showing good stuff. Scott Rowland driving in the only run of the game after an Albert Pujols 2-out single. And not good news for the Brewers starter Ben Sheets after 2 very good starts coming off the disabled list. Out with a pectoral problem. And that's it. 1 inning for Ben Sheets. It's Jeremy Gonzalez on the mound for the Brewers. A good start for Jeremy.
Back in St. Louis, Damian Miller, and then of course Jeremy Gonzalez and Gabe Gross. And the first pitch to Damian misses wide. Well, it's been a very good road trip for Damian. 6 hits and 13 at bats, and we have learned to follow the ebb and flow of being an everyday catcher in the big leagues. Rarely do you put together huge months because it's such a physically demanding job. But you certainly enjoy the offensive spurts on the high side for Damian.
And it keeps you going. I mean, every catcher will tell you that their main job is to, play defense, get the pitcher through the game, but everybody wants to hit. And the hotter it gets, the tougher it becomes.
He will not start in tomorrow's game as that pitch misses high unless something dramatically changes. And Ed Yost pointing to 2 things. Number 1, there was no day game in Colorado, which allowed him to play it every single day, and there was an off day on Thursday. But the good news is when the Brewers go to Mike Rivera, they certainly aren't missing a whole lot. He's done a great job as a number 2.
Yes, he is. Very good fundamentally behind the plate, and he's got some pop in that bat. Now, you figure that Rivera is going to get the start tomorrow, and then it's a team off day on Monday, so Damian gets 2 days off.
And that's another fact that he didn't mention, but that's key, too. Give him 2 days off, let him catch the first 2 games in the Cubs series, and then take another day off before the club heads to Atlanta. Very, very short homestand, just 3 games against their rivals, the Chicago Cubs. We'll do it again, 3-2 the count. Anthony Reyes grew up in Southern California High School in Whittier. And went on and was an honor roll student at USC. And some pretty good pitchers in that rotation in 2001. High sky. Very shallow center field, Jim Edmonds. 1 away. In that rotation in 2001, Rick Courier, who was with the Yankees organization. Anthony Reyes, and the number 1 on that team was Mark Pryor.
And Anthony Reyes didn't start pitching until his sophomore year. I mean, so, that's a good thing. I mean, he's still learning how to pitch out there, very much like Dave Bush. I mean, on-the-job training, which means his arm's relatively fresh.
Gonzalez not shy, hacking and swinging the bat. It's interesting, you have in the same lineup now 2 guys that the Red Sox valued last year in their run to attempt to go to the World Series. And it's not big names, folks. It's not Big Papi. It's not Manny Ramirez. It's guys at the bottom of that roster like Tony Graffinino and this man, Jeremy Gonzalez, both key members of the Red Sox last year. And he did a lot of things like this with Boston. You have a pitcher go down with an injury, he'll come in early. You need a closer, he'll pitch the 9th inning. And again, the numbers weren't super spectacular. Just ask Dale Swaim, though, how he helped. Swaim was on that coaching staff. Goes down on strikes.
Already the 5th strikeout for Anthony Reyes. His career high in strikeouts is 7. He's well on his way to surpassing that. This guy's had some pretty good games. I mean, back on June 22nd against the White Sox in Chicago, he lost the game 1-0. He threw a one-hitter. The only hit, a home run from Jim Thome. Hang with him. Lost 1-0.
Gabe Gross struck out back in the 1st inning. Changeup, he got under that one just a bit. Pushed it uphill. 1-0 the count to Gabe. Well, when the Cardinals made phone calls heading up to the trading deadline, trying to improve their club, everyone on the other end said, we'll take Anthony Reyes. And promptly, Walt Jocketty hung up.
Click.
Can't make that move. Not only is he gifted, not only does he have a bright future, but financially it makes sense for a club to have a number 2 or 3 caliber starting pitcher in your control for a long time and financially affordable. Just missed the inside corner. 2-1 the count. Like Pryor, Bill, he's got those strong legs, strong at the bottom.
Got that classic delivery. Takes a lot of the pressure off of his arm when he drives off of that pitching rubber with his back leg. Classic, driving off that back leg. Big, strong thighs, as you talked about. Most of the problems for Mark Pryor are not arm problems, it's leg problems. And with a delivery like Anthony Reyes, you would figure he's not going to spend a lot of time on the disabled list with an arm injury.
2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs to count on Gabe Gross. Tried to hit that black and just missed it. We'll do it again. 3-2 now. Reyes has pitched twice in his career against the Brewers, both last year.
See the way he bounces on that back leg and drives hard off that back leg, and when you have a delivery like that, takes the pressure off the arm and the that shoulder and the elbow.
Reyes made his major league debut against Milwaukee last year on August the 9th. 6 1/3 innings, just 2 hits. Couple of runs, and Bill Hull homered in that game, but Reyes beat the Brewers with his Cardinal teammates 5-2. It's one of those outings that sticks in your mind. We called that game, and Anthony Reyes an early impression. Going again on 3-2. He lost in ball 4. Good at bat for Gabe Gross to work that walk. Couple of close pitches. Now it was Tony Graffinino last night who extended an inning. Let's see if he can do it again tonight. Cardinals and the Brewers wrap up this series tomorrow. Chris Capuano against Jeff Suppan. And if you're a diehard Brewers fan, you hate Jeff Suppan.
Got a great sinking fastball, and he's really owned the Brewers, hasn't he?
Not even close. I mean, that's not even close, and maybe, just maybe, with so much bad luck in losing Ben Sheets, this hit batter will lead to some more good luck, because here comes Prince Fielder.
And 2 outs and nobody on. And the first time through the order for the Brewers, nobody really hit the ball hard. Reyes was able to strike out 5 of the first 9 batters. And Graffinino last night extended an inning. That was the 6th inning. A high bouncer back through the middle drove in a run for Milwaukee and allowed Prince Fielder to do that with two outs. Let's see if he can do it again.
Fielder walked back in the 1st inning. Saw a lot of change-ups, if I'm not mistaken, from Reyes. They stayed away from him. That's what Molina did last night, too, most of the time, especially after the home. Off speed, misses in. We'll see these Florida Marlins very soon. The Milwaukee Brewers, Ugla and Willingham and Jacobs, getting to know them, and of course Ryan Zimmerman. But Prince Fielder leads them all in home runs amongst rookies.
That's a scrappy bunch in Florida, isn't it?
Well, good for them. It's been a lot of young players getting an opportunity to play that would be in AAA elsewhere. 1-1 the count. Ned was pointing out today that we haven't seen the Marlins all year long, and here in a few weeks the Brewers will see the Marlins in 7 games in 10 days. So they'll see them all at once and see them quickly. You bet it's a scrappy bunch.
Yeah, they always have been a scrappy bunch.
Joe Girardi managing that team. They're losing to Los Angeles tonight 7-1. On the inside corner, 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Yeah, Prince got caught looking for a breaking ball. The first 2 pitches in this at bat to Prince were sliders. I think Prince looking for maybe something away or a breaking ball. That was a fastball getting plenty of the plate.
See if they throw him a changeup here, 1-2. They didn't. They threw him a fastball, and Fielder drives it left field. Over to his left is Spezio, and he makes the play for the out. The Brewers strand a pair.
We Energy's High Energy Player of the Year current leader is Bill Hall with 31% of the votes. Each voter is entered for the chance to win lunch with Billy. At least Billy's winning so far. The We Energy's High Player of the Year. Vote today at MilwaukeeBrewers.com/Player of the Year.
Scott Spezio fouls one just below us. Billy certainly does play with a lot of energy. There's no doubt about that. Prince Fielder, I would imagine, on himself a bit, wanted to drive in that run.
That was a good pitch. I mean, Reyes crowded him with a fastball up in the zone. Prince gave it a pretty good ride, but not going to do too much with a pitch like that. I mean, that was a good game plan by Gary Bennett and Reyes. A couple of sliders, and then they were able to sneak 2 fastballs by Prince.
2-1 the count to Scott Spezio. Of course, Spezio thrust onto the world stage back in 2002. Remember, the Angels had 19 postseason RBIs. Tony Graffinino cannot make the play, and Scott has certainly rediscovered himself here in St. Louis. He literally disappeared in Seattle. In 04, he hit .215. Last year, Scott Spezio hit .064.
Yeah, pretty good switch hitter. Getting a spot start. I mean, he was announced late, just before the ball game. John Rodriguez was supposed to get the start in left, but he's been bothered by a sore ankle. Couldn't go tonight, so Spezio not a bad replacement.
Albert Pujols singled and stole the base back in the first inning, eventually scoring on the double by Scott Ruled. Goes after a high fastball. That's a souvenir. 26-year-old Albert Pujols. When he was picked by the St. Louis Cardinals, he was the 402nd player overall drafted out of Maple Woods Community College, just outside of Kansas City. 401 other players drafted before Albert Pujols. This time he's in the hole 0-2. Scouting, it's an inexact science. I mean, they do the best they can.
Well, some guys are late bloomers, right? How about Mike Piazza?
That's a great example.
I mean, Roy Oswald, a 20th round pick.
And Piazza was more of just a favor. I mean, if you know the story.
Yeah, he was about, what, 62 round pick?
Yep. Born in the Dominican Republic, but at about 16 years old. Not a bad 0-2 pitch. I don't know if Albert thinks it's a good 0-2 pitch. 1-2 the count.
I'm a little bit late on a couple of fastballs. Maybe leaning out over the plate, looking for something away. A breaking ball, change up. See the stare from Albert. That's just good baseball. Get him off the plate a little bit.
Now that you've rattled his cage, you better execute on 1-2. And he did. Good slider away. 2-2 the count. You think about how quickly things happen for Albert Pujols. He moves to Kansas City from the Dominican at 16 years old. 10 years later, 10 years after moving to the United States, he's the best player in baseball. And that's not in junior college, that's in the big leagues. Did he go around? Won't even appeal on that one. That looked pretty close. Pitch up and in, 3-2 the count.
A little bit of a culture shock, isn't it? Dominican Republic to Kansas City.
Well, you bet.
I don't think those are two similar places.
I've never been to the Dominican, but I have been to Kansas and Missouri. What does he throw here? 3-2. Runner goes, and it is killed but foul. facing out there of the second deck.
Yeah, fastball, he tried to get in on Albert. With Spezio running on the pitch because Albert very rarely strikes out. He had that double play. Tried to get it in, left it out over the plate, and Gonzalez lucky to get that one back.
Full count, nobody out. And Albert almost looked like he asked Gonzalez for time there. But it was a home plate umpire, Paul Schreiber, that granted it to him. Classic stance that we've gotten used to from Pujols. Says, I never overswing. He didn't overswing there. Lined left field, gone. St. Louis on the 34th home run of the year off the bat of Albert Pujols. RBIs number 88 and 89. It's August the 5th. RBI number 89.
Yeah, Pujols worked the count to full after being down in the count 0-2. Had a fastball, this one out over the plate and hit a rocket. I tell you, line drive, just a matter was going to be high enough. Into the first throw out there and left.
So he backed up his words, and it's the words that we heard him tell us on the air yesterday on this show. Even when he gets a little bit emotional or a pitcher is throwing harder, he does not overswing. I mean, he had his tower buzzed in that at bat, and he never overswung.
Twice.
Ah, that's a good point. I mean, up and in, up under that helmet bill twice.
Yeah, the 1-2 pitch from Gonzalez didn't miss by much. It was a slider that just was off the outside corner enough to be called a ball, but Pujols didn't bite on it, and then it was a battle after that for Jeremy. Couldn't get that fastball by him.
One and two, the count on rolling. Wanted to get that pitch up in the zone, didn't get it up enough, but the ballpark held it. Well, you could see Damian Miller all the way out of his crouch, and the spot was missed. One out.
You can tell by the reaction of the catcher if it's a good pitch or not. Damian wanted it up. It wasn't up enough. It was right down the middle of the plate and rolling just a little bit behind it. It stayed in the ballpark.
So the Cardinals lead it 3-0. Scott Rowland with an RBI, Albert Pujols with a pair. Changeup misses outside to Edmonds. 1-1 the count. Over 1,000 RBIs, over 1,100 runs scored in the career of Jim Edmonds. And you include all the Gold Gloves that Edmonds has won. It's just that he has been on clubs with superstars that maybe have bigger names than him. Mark McGwire was his teammate. Now Scott Rowland and Albert Pujols are his teammates.
And just very quietly putting together a nice season. It's just a question of whether the Cardinals want him back next year. Interesting decision that Walt Jocketty and the Cardinals have to decide whether they want Jim Edmonds to be roaming center field for another season.
A lot of clubs are faced with decisions like that. Whether a player's been injured. In the case of Kerry Wood, there's a large option tied to the future of Kerry Wood, or whether a player has done an awful lot for an organization, but maybe a time could be for a change, like Torrey Hunter in Minnesota. Big options tied to their future. So this winter could be very interesting. And that's not even including the free agents. There are a lot of guys who could become free agents. Shot into right field, a base hit. Edmonds hustling on her out. Jenkins will play it in the corner. And it's a double for Jim Edmonds.
Classic stroke for Jim Edmonds. I mean, a very wide stance, just like Albert Pujols. And just picks up that front heel, turns it toward the pitcher, and check it out. I mean, you talk about staying on balance. it's amazing that he strikes out as much as he does, because he really doesn't overswing. That bat right through the hitting zone and a double down the line.
It's an interesting study of hitters when you think about Jim Edmonds and Albert Pujols. Obviously very different in age and guys that play different positions, but both, Bill, do exactly what you're talking about. It's almost like you're looking in a mirror. That front foot just spins just a little bit, and then they go to raking.
Yep. As opposed to the big high leg kick that Jeff Jenkins incorporates, some guys have their feet close together, and it's just the way that they're able to balance themselves, and their triggering mechanism is that front heel. It's like Paul Molitor didn't have a real wide base, but he didn't move his hands at all, just like Pujols and Edmonds, and his triggering mechanism, talking about Molitor, was that front knee.
Watch the front of both of these approaches.
And watch how balanced they stay. I mean, the body doesn't move forward at all. The hands go back. That's their triggering mechanism. You can see how well balanced they are. Able to stay behind the baseball, and that's how they generate their power. You don't have to wind up. You don't have to move the hands back and forth and rock them up and down, and a lot of movement with that front foot. It's all a matter of how you're able to get that bat back or keep it back and get it through that hitting zone very quickly.
Belliard belts it into left field. Edmonds being sent home by Jose Kindo. Ronnie Belliard with his second hit as a member of the Cardinals. It is 4-0 St. Louis. 46 RBIs this year overall for Belliard. Somebody wore their hitting shoes tonight.
Well, you're not going to be able to keep this offense down very long. They've been down for a considerable amount of time. He doesn't pick the foot up a whole lot, and a very small step toward the plate, or toward the pitcher, I should say, and he's able to stay on balance well, just like the other guy. Everybody starts a little bit differently, but pretty much all good hitters end up at the same spot right before they're ready to put the bat through the hitting zone. That power position.
Cardinals are playing like a team that's sick and tired of losing. Lost 8 consecutive games. They started really strong after the All-Star break. That's when they started to create distance between themselves and Cincinnati Reds, and certainly the Brewers, who scuffled out of the break. But not in their last 11 games. That includes 8 losses in a row.
And a tough inning for Jeremy Gonzalez after striking out the side in the second inning. Cardinals have been able to put up 4 base hits.
And the one thing, you can talk about the offense for the Cardinals, which is essential, as it is for the Brewers, but in that span of their last 11 games, the pitching hasn't been there. It's equally as important to get a good start out of Anthony Reyes tonight.
And nothing going well. Batting average is down, runs per game down considerably, team earned run average. Very uncharacteristic of the Cardinals. Chris Carpenter with that, he's got a banged up thumb. It remains to be seen how long he's going to be out, and that happened in yesterday's ball game. Mark Mulder on the disabled list.
Mulder's expected to go tomorrow in a rehab outing. They've got Wainwright winning in that bullpen. I mean, they can move him into the rotation at any time. He's got the goods. They're being as patient as they can with guys like Mulder to get him healthy, and Weaver hoping beyond all hope they can get Jeff Weaver back on track. And you don't blame him for liking Wainwright in that bullpen.
Yeah, he's got good stuff. He was in yesterday's ball game.
Jeff Weaver really struggled, was replaced by his brother in Anaheim. 3-1 the count on Chris Duncan.
And Jeff Weaver's got an 8.68 earned run average in 4 starts for the Cardinals.
And a walk to Duncan. So the inning rolls on. Runners on first and second. Gonzalez has already thrown 43 pitches overall. A very uneventful second inning for Jeremy. 30th pitch of the inning in this inning. And here's Gary Bennett, who struck out back in the second against Gonzalez. Just joining us, Ben Sheets lasted only 1 inning and was removed from the ball game. Tightness in his right pectoral muscle is the initial diagnosis. Coming off of shoulder problems, lat problems, upper back problems as well over the last 6 to 8 months.
Not unusual for that to happen when you're experiencing some weakness or some sensations in one part of your arm and try and overcompensate with your delivery. You end up affecting something else. You just hope it's not too serious. And Jeremy right now having a tough time getting something over other than that fastball. Tried to throw some breaking balls to Chris Duncan, couldn't find the plate. And they've been all over the fastball so far in this inning.
So another option getting loose in the pen. It's Rick Hellick. 1-2 the count. Bennett. Well, body language says 1,000 words. No doubt about that. I thought that was wide. Brewers without a hit tonight. So far, very good. Reyes. Keep it right here. I mean, you saw that ERA over the last 11 games for the Cardinals. Fight back in this game. He helps him out a bit. 1-2. Gary Bennett was a Brewer. In 75 games he appeared back in 2004. Only hit .224, but left a solid impression on everyone the way he goes about his business.
Yeah, work ethic, all business back there, doing a nice job defensively. And that's what he does here in St. Louis. You know, ordinarily, this is a team that doesn't need a whole lot of help from the catcher offensively. Yadier Molina not having a big offensive season, Bennett either, but when the rest of them are hitting, you can afford to have a defensive specialist behind the plate. It's when the other guys in your lineup aren't hitting, that's when you really, under the microscope, that catching spot offensively.
Perfect kind of backup catcher because of the way he handles himself for a contending team. Think of recently the New York Yankees acquiring a friend of show. I mean, how else can you describe Sal Fasano? Guy that plays the game right, goes about his business, and can catch once or twice a week, and certainly will help you with his catcher's mitt.
Yeah, made him cut his hair, trim his mustache.
That's right, I saw that. I did see that. That's Graffinino. Let's take these two hitters again and put them in a mirror as we talked about, how it's just about identical, how they don't fly out at that baseball.
You can see Albert Pujols more or less sitting more on the stool. It was like a Jeff Bagwell type stance, more spread out and straight up is Jim Edmonds, but both of them very similar styles. I think Edmonds, as he approaches the baseball, more straight up than Albert Pujols, but they're both very effective, aren't they?
And they have been for quite some time. Albert for his first 5.5 years, and Edmonds for more than a decade. Jeremy trying to stop it right here. And nibbling around that strike zone, as Bill mentioned, hasn't gotten exactly what he wants, but he does now to the pitcher.
And what he's trying to do is trying to figure out a way to get something other than the fastball over for a strike. The fastball, that's been the pitch that these Cardinals have been wearing out in this inning. Just can't find the plate with the breaking ball.
Boy, a lot of pitches thrown in that inning. 54 overall in the game for Gonzalez. Brewers have to go to work. They don't have a hit. Some legendary names and faces here in St. Louis. That rolls us into our Aflac trivia question, which is, what former Cardinals pitcher has his name on at least 10 Hall of Fame plaques? Think about that one. As a former Cardinal pitcher went into baseball's Hall of Fame this past Sunday, and Bruce Sutter. Old number 45 right there, Bob Gibson. There are two guys that if I could hop in a time machine, the DeLorean with Michael J. Fox, I'd love to go back and see Bob Gibson pitch.
Yeah.
Never saw him, and Sandy Koufax.
Yep, you bet. Bob Gibson, I tell you what, he'd knock anybody down. Those were the days when pitchers were allowed to come inside, hit guys. Different day, different time. No warnings back then. Not too many anyway. Was it a 1.12 earned run average?
68. One of the greatest seasons of all time.
Wow.
The father tells the story of coming up early in his career and facing Bob Gibson and letting one slip away, going up and in and hitting one of the members of the Cardinals. And he knew that when he came to hit, Gibson was going to hit him. He was a young first, second year pitcher, and you don't come up and in, you don't hit one of the stars on the team, and he just understood it. Gibson hit him. My father said the entire way to first base, even though the baseball had long dropped and was on the ground, it felt like it was still spinning and digging a hole in his side.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about. There was some gamesmanship that's changed a bit. There's no doubt about it. Guys like Don Drysdale, boy, how much did he come up and in?
Yeah. Well, it's because of Bob Gibson that pitchers these days are, have to pitch off of that 10-inch pitcher's mound. I mean, after that 1968 season, before that time, the pitcher's mound was 13 inches above the ground. And because of that big season, they lowered it 3 inches, and now guys have to suffer.
It's a very, very disappointing move with regard to pitchers.
And the higher the mound, the better that breaking ball reacts. I guess the more of a downward plane, you can throw a little bit harder, keep the ball down better.
And there are always conspiracy theorists that have bats in their hands, and certainly won't use anybody by name, but through my years of sitting up here in the booth, you can be riding on a bus or sitting in the clubhouse, and hitters will get together and say, I think that mound is too high in blank stadium. Now, teams wouldn't do that, would they, Bill?
Well, to the letter of the rules. I mean, there are some mounds that will appear to be a lot higher than other mounds because they're not as tapered. The pitching rubber has to be, by the letter of the rules, 10 inches above the level of home plate. Now, sometimes the mound will be a little bit bigger and the slope won't seem as high, but some mounds like Los Angeles appear to be a lot higher than other mounds. I don't think they do it on purpose, do you?
Bill Hall did that on purpose. That's the first hit of the game for the Milwaukee Brewers, and a good sign. Let's hope it starts something here with one out here in the top of the fourth inning. Billy was 0 for 3 last night. Now he's 1 for 2 tonight. Now, how about the bullpen mounds? I mean, that's got to be a challenge. There are stories that some teams will take a bullpen mound, especially that of the visiting mound, and make it different from the one on the field.
Yeah, that I believe.
Got to be some rules tied to that.
I don't think there are.
Pitch misses low and inside to Jeff Jenkins. It should be, I mean, if you really look at it logically, it should be all about the pitcher. Reyes in the hole, 1-0. Jenks popped to short. Get number 10. Waiting for that one, big boy. Deep right field, stay fair. Jenkins off the pole. There's number 10. There is number 10. We've all been waiting for it. No longer can they say he is locked up at single digits in home runs, and now we've got a ball game.
Yes, we do. And Jeff Jenkins able to turn on that baby, didn't he? Well, he had a pretty good batting practice. I was down there in the field during batting practice, and Jenkins routinely was hitting him into the seats. He's getting tired of hearing about his lack of power, and starting to do something about it. Certainly a down year offensively, at least power-wise. That was a fastball, inner half of the plate, and he hit it a ton, and it hit the foul pole down there in right field. No doubt about that one. Just a matter of whether it was going to be fair or not.
There's one surefire way to not hear about your lack of power. That's hit with power.
Yeah, you're right.
And Jenkins now, as Ned Yost has said, as Butch Weiniger has said, they hope he can stack up, last month and a couple of weeks to lock up the season. Let's hope he can.
Couldn't come at a better time, getting the Brewers right back into this, stemming the tide a bit to that Cardinal offense. Things might have been a bit bleak had Reyes gone out there in a 3-up and 3-down inning, and all the momentum on the side of the Cardinals. Not the case now. James doing a nice job keeping that one fair. That was a fastball on the inside corner. Kept the hands in and able to just keep it fair down the line.
Right off that pole out there, the netting on the foul pole. And you could hear, I would imagine you could hear it, folks, when we were showing you the replay, that this Brewers club, a little bit of emotion in that dugout, as if you said, it stemmed the tide a bit, and it also woke them up. And the one thing I think that is tempting when you lose a guy like Ben Sheets is to have your dauber down. Well, Jeff made sure, and I would imagine all his teammates make sure that that just can't happen. Bell in on his knuckles, charging, attempting to make the play, and right with the dive, unable to make it is Duncan. David Bell can run for a while. All the way to third he goes with one out. Now a pop fly, and it's a one-run game. A triple for David Bell.
Amazing how things turn around, isn't it? I mean, it was 4-0. It was all Cardinals, and now 3 base hits for the Brewers. A couple of them for extra bases, including that home run. And looked like Duncan was deep in right and shaded around a little bit toward right center. Couldn't get there. Not sure it was a good idea to dive for that baseball, because you might be able to keep Bell at a single if you just played on a hop. As it stands, he's at third base.
And that keeps that dugout alive and well. Reyes thinking strikeout here, no doubt about it. And Ned Yost saying, you know what? I know I'd like to stretch out Jeremy Gonzalez, but I can't afford to do it now. He's got Brady Clark with the bat in the on-deck circle. That means they've got to pitch to Miller.
Everybody's going to pitch tonight.
1-0 the count.
You got your hand up?
I'm in.
I don't know. I've seen you pitch.
No. Well, if it goes the other way, you know, Milwaukee grabs like a 35-4 lead. I'll help out. 1-day contract. That's all I need.
Throw some BP.
I made a living in A-ball doing that. Inside, and Reyes, I would imagine a youngster, a bit shaken now. Brady Clark on deck. It's one of those games, if you want to call yourself a contender, you want to get in this wild card and divisional race, you win games like this. When you lose your starting pitcher in the first. That's high, nowhere close, ball 4. So whether they were pitching him carefully, I'm not quite sure, but nothing close to Miller. And here's Brady Clark.
I think he hit the nail right on the head. That's the second, third walk now for Anthony Reyes. He's a bit rattled after that Jenkins homer. Made a decent pitch to David Bell, but Duncan couldn't get to it in right, and now he's in a big jam. Base hit gets the Brewers right back to within 1.
And here you go. Looks like Hancock grabs the baseball. I would imagine Tony La Russa was hoping not to have to do this. The last outing for Reyes at Wrigley Field, he went 6 innings and he allowed 6 hits, 3 runs overall, so not so bad. But he hit a batter and he walked 5, did not strike 1 out. So we had control problems in that outing as well.
It's always the case, isn't it? When a pitcher's having a tough time, walks are usually involved. Very rarely do you see a guy, pound the strike zone, not walk too many, and get beat up pretty good.
And so now Brady Clark, who offensively has been in a euphoric state over the last month and a half, to work his on-base percentage up there and to work that batting average up to nearly .290.
And a little adjustment in the stance. Brady standing a little bit more upright and laying that bat down just a little bit. Freeing up his hands a lot quicker to the plate. And it looks as though he's off the plate a little bit as well.
Just keep it off the ground. He lines it over the head of Eckstein and into left field. It's a 1-run game. And Brady Clark, who was just 1 for 11 on this trip, despite hitting .357 over the last 2 weeks, picks up a huge hit off the bench.
Brewers pinch hitters have been doing a fine job as of late. Tony Gwynn chiming in with some base hits. Now Brady Clark. Gabe Gross. That fastball right down the middle of the plate. It looked as though Bennett wanted it inside. He left it out over the plate, and Brady hit it hard just out of the reach of David Eckstein. Now the Brewers a base hit away from tying it up.
Runners on first and second. Here is Gabe Gross. And he takes low. 1-0 the count quickly. Hancock getting ready in that bullpen for Tony La Russa. About one more long ball here. Gross has 8 of them this year. He's hitting .333 since the All-Star break. Got him out front. Backed off on velocity there. David Eckstein. 2 outs. Not done yet, these Brewers, though.
Yeah, nothing more deflating for the Cardinals. You know, they come in here losers of 8 in a row. They get off to a 4-0 lead, and their pitcher not able to hold it. So the Brewers right back into it. You know, in situations like this, when you're in the midst of a losing streak, whether you're a veteran team or not, you got to think that those thoughts coming in and what's going to happen tonight. Here we go again, that type of thing. It was in the middle of that 13 or 12 game losing streak for the Brewers in '87, and that those are the kind of things that you think about throughout a game.
And in confidence, I would imagine, erodes very quickly. I mean, in comparison to when you're in a winning streak, let's say.
Well, the Brewers won 13 in a row to start the season that year, and you go to the ballpark in the middle of a game. It doesn't matter if you're down what point in the game, you know you're going to come back and win.
Losers of 8 in a row, these Cardinals, for the second time this year. Let's see if Graffinino can strike a little bit of 2-out magic like he did last night just in front of Prince Fielder. Ground ball. Eckstein surrounds it, flips it on over to Belliard, and he nearly threw it away. The Brewers are back in this game. Jeff Jenkins is off the schneid with regard to power. Home run number 10 on the season, and boy, did it help. Into this trivia question, but it's a very good one. I mean, it certainly is one that once you hear the answer, former Cardinals pitcher has his name on at least 10 Baseball Hall of Fame plaques. If you said Cy Young, he is mentioned over and over again of the many Cy Young winners, then you are correct. That is a very, very good question. Rick Helling takes over for the Milwaukee Brewers. He's got to go right back to the top of the order. David Eckstein, Scott Spezio, and Albert Pujols. The reigning Brewers pitcher of the month in the month of July. Last time out in Colorado touched up a bit, but certainly deserving of the honor in July.
You see his numbers. He's done a much better job for the Brewers this year coming out of the bullpen than in his 2 starts. Struggled mightily in his 2 opportunities in the starting rotation, but out of the bullpen, he's been lights out.
2-0 the count to David Eckstein. Eck popped to third and struck out. He's 0 for 2. He's another guy that's a little bit quiet since the All-Star break. They're trying to get him going. And the count is 2-1 since the break, hitting just .227.
And one of the problems that the Cardinal offense has had when your top of your order doesn't get on, you know, the pitcher's able to be more careful to guys like Pujols and Scott Rowland.
Three balls and 1 strike the count. Fastball, a straight one, and a cut fastball, and then that classic curveball that in one season won Rick Helling 20 games. That's what he still has. And the count is 3-2. David was on his way.
Yep, right down the middle of the plate, but just at the very top of that strike zone.
And a walk to David Eckstein. That's a great trivia question that we started the inning with. And of course, Cy Young, 511 victories, rewriting in its original state baseball history books. And Bob Gibson in 1968, 22-9, an ERA of 1.12.
Not bad. Cy Young, the winningest pitcher of all time and the losingest pitcher of all time.
Which means he took the baseball for you a lot.
Yes, he did. And back in those days, those guys pitch both ends of a doubleheader. Racked up, 500 innings in a year. Amazing.
Scott Spezio. His father, Ed Spezio, played in the major leagues with the St. Louis Cardinals a few years after Cy Young, no doubt about that. After leaving St. Louis, Cy Young went to Boston, Cleveland, and then wrapped up his career with Boston, the Boston Braves. There's a strike, 0-1 the count. 815 starts in the career of Cy Young. Of the 815 starts that he made, 749 of them were completed.
In the decade of the 1980s, he averaged 27 wins a year and had a 3.05 ERA. The decade of the 1900 decade, 27 wins and a 2.12 earned run average. Not bad, huh?
Not bad at all. Big time strikeout pitcher. Pitched to contact, didn't walk anyone. Pitched about every other day, as the numbers would indicate. And is all over baseball's Hall of Fame.
In 1892, Cy Young racked up 453 innings.
It was a big year. He, at 450, reached his incentives. Did Scott go around there? It's called at home plate by Paul Schreiber. And a hitter, when that occurs, will say, you know what, didn't you want to get some help on that one? And the home plate umpire will say, no, I saw it just fine. Thank you very much. Good breaking ball there from Helen.
And that's his pitch, that cut fastball, the big overhand curveball. That's when he gets his strikeout. He's got to get ahead in the count. Hitters will chase that pitch. Spezio not able to hold up, and a nice job by Damian Miller to keep it in front of him.
Albert Pujols has singled and homered in this game. A well-located fastball away has him leaning just a touch. And for Albert, that's a lot. Bouncing ball, Bill Hall toward the bag, onto it, up and over, and a double play. There you go, Rick Hilling. Get that team back in the dugout. Go to hitting, boys. Brewers fans making the trip, enjoying this ball game. St. Louis leads it by a run. And don't forget, Brewers fans, no matter where you are, even if you're out of state, traveling well, all over the world, our owner Mark Attanasio has used it. MLB.TV. You can watch the Milwaukee Brewers on MilwaukeeBrewers.com. More live games than anyone else. MilwaukeeBrewers.com, where baseball is always on. I accessed that last night and had a chance to saw the goings-on, if you will, at AT&T Park in San Francisco. Barry Bonds was ejected after arguing a strike 2 pitch, and fans began throwing garbage on the field in San Fran. I used MLB.TV to watch that action. Unfortunate incident, and they got it pulled together, and the Rockies ended up winning the game. I don't know if that's the sales pitch they were looking for there.
So you can see garbage being thrown on the field?
Well, I guess so. Can I have a do-over on that one? I don't know if that's quite what they were looking for. 1-1 the count. But it makes the point. You know, you're watching television. Something scrolls across the screen. Game's been delayed. There's issues. You hop online and you can see what's going on. Prince walked. He also has flied out. Roar right on that pitch. And the count is 1-2. Ben Sheets again, lasting just 1 inning in this game, being removed with some problems in the pectoral muscle, the right pectoral muscle tightness, they said. And hopefully there will be better news tomorrow, but quite honestly, I would imagine that pulls Ned Joe's spirit internally down just a bit. And if it didn't, he's not human.
Yeah.
They won't let you see it.
Man, what a roller coaster for Ned and the rest of the team with respect to that pitching staff, huh?
Prince puts Jim Edmonds to work. He's up to the task. And fielder is erased. Chris Capuano on the mound tomorrow against Jeff Suppan. Capuano just chomping at the bit to get back out there and get back on track. It's been a tough second half for Chris. He was saying today, we taped an interview with him that we will air tomorrow before the game, that the time in between for a pitcher that's pretty cerebral like he is tough when you've struggled.
Yeah, I mean, those are 4 long days that you have to, sit around, get your work in, think about your last start. That's what's so nice about being an everyday player, a position player that gets an opportunity every day, and even the guy that's out in that bullpen. As nice as it is for a starting pitcher, between starts when you're pitching well, it's equally as difficult when you're not. Man, really, the thing about Capuano right now, in my mind anyway, is the command of the changeup in the second half of the season. Not nearly what it was early in the year.
Roller towards center field. Ronnie Belliard, long throw, no chance. And as Bill Hall walks toward the plate, you can't help but think about the power and the fact that he could change this game with one swing of the bat. As a matter of fact, Billy Hall right now, 24 home runs, 5 more than shortstop Miguel Tejada, more than any shortstop in the big league, something that humbles him a bit.
I mean, he's won MVPs. He's a superstar. He's been in an all-star game. So to be even mentioned in the same sentence as Miguel Tejada, is a great feat for me. But I'm just out here trying to help this team win, and whatever my statistics show at the end of the year, that's when I'll smile at them. But right now, I still got some work to do, and so does this team.
Well, Miguel Tejada has done it for many, many years, and Bill Hall certainly has the opportunity to put together a nice career if he continues to do offensively what he's done this year.
There you see him in the leaders and extra base hits, and you could tell the humility with which he recognized what Tejada has done. I mean, he's got 19 home runs this year, but Miguel Tejada, in his career, 5 times has gone over that 30 home run total. So it's old hat for him. But as he said, just to be mentioned on a single season in the same sentence is a compliment.
You bet.
Don't want to look ahead to next year yet. We're a long, long way even from September, but it's going to be interesting as this club builds itself leading into next year. I was one of those included in the group that thought Billy was a guy that needed to bounce around. It kept him into the game. It kept him energetic. He just missed that one. Boy, he is hot with himself. But now you find yourself, and you can't help but think it since you've seen it, he's got to play every day somewhere. Somewhere.
No doubt about that. Maybe third base. You don't know what the Brewers are going to do in the offseason. Is David Bell going to come back? Corey Koski has another year on his contract. And hopefully Corey is going to be able to come back at some point this year. I miss Corey Koski. I mean, Corey did a nice job for the Brewers. They miss his left-handed bat in that lineup and played very well defensively.
10th home run of the year just an inning ago for Jeff Jenkins.
Well, the wild card is J.J. Hardy. Is J.J. going to be able to stay healthy for an entire season? Had a tough time doing that.
Well, and I certainly, when I mentioned what I mentioned earlier, it's not to look beyond J.J. at all. But as you said, he has had some rough luck. Having Sal Fasano block the plate, turn that ankle upside down, cost him the year. The tendon never healed. Surgically repaired last week. 2-0 the count.
Shoulder problems in the minor leagues. All of a sudden, he's been able to get beyond the shoulder problems at the beginning part of the season. Really aggressive with the bat like he was last year in the second half. one thing or another with JJ.
Come out of your shoes here on 2-0. Unless it's a ball, and it's 3-0.
Got to believe he's going to get the green light right now. Why not, right? 3-0. Just hit a home run.
Brewers down by a run, top of the 5th inning here in St. Louis. Not quite yet. That one is on the corner. The scoreboard had ball 4 out there, but not quite yet. 3-1 the count. Ball 4. Go ahead and take your base, Jeff. Now they changed it. Kevin Mench is the runner at first. Off speed, good. It's 3-1.
Nice changeup. I'll tell you what, you're 3-1, and you know Jenkins is looking for the fastball. Pulls a string on him. That's that circle changeup. Well done. Jenks way out in front of it.
If he throws it again. Runner will take off from first. The 3-2 pitch. Threw him a breaking ball, and he fouls it off. By the way, for Kevin Mench out there, he needed that hit. He was 0 for 14 on this trip. That's his first hit prior to that.
Nice thing was he took it right back through the middle. The thing that Mench has been doing since coming over to the Brewers, trying to pull too much. Take it back through the middle, think the opposite field. Good things happen.
Kevin takes off. Jenkins hangs in there.
Another off-speed pitch. Reyes does not want to throw him a fastball. A couple of change-ups and a breaking ball on 3-2.
Starting to work up a good lather through that hat. You can see the sweat-soaked hat of Anthony Reyes into the 90s consistently all day. It's going to be hotter tomorrow. With the runner going, he went back to a good breaking ball. Boy, did he pitch him effectively. He was in the hole. 3-0. Brewers down by a run. Got off the homer. Schneid, his 10th home run of the year in the 4th inning. A moment ago, we talked to Butch Weiniger about the impact, how much it meant for Jeff to hit one out.
Yeah, it really was. You know, he's read a lot, and you know, we both take it very seriously, no doubt, and it really, you know, dwells on his mind a little bit and everything. And again, we, you know, just try to make these little adjustments as we go along, because you just don't have it every day, and that was good to see. I'm just glad the ball stayed fair.
Butch, what has been the effect of the veteran guys coming over in the trades? I mean, Graffinino and Bell, Mench. I mean, what kind of a approach have they shown these young hitters on this club?
Well, you know, just by leading by example right now, really. They're all 3 hard workers. They all 3 come to the cage. They just set a good example just by their work habits and just what they exhibit out here in the field and everything. They're not real vocal guys, like I say, and they don't go around, you know, talking a lot. But just by coming to the cage and the young kids watching them and the way they attack BP and do their work in the cage, they're setting great examples, no doubt.
Thank you, Butch. Best of luck.
Darren, you're welcome.
No, you're welcome, Butch. 2-0, the count to Scott. He was so nice, I had to follow that up.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he does a good job down there. He's so passionate about, you know, what he does and the work that his hitters do on a daily basis, and doing a nice job getting right back into this ball game.
One thought listening to that, and I know it's human nature, but a guy like Jeff, you hope that guys like Jeff Jenkins aren't affected by, as what Butch Weiniger said, what they read. And Ned Yost at times, I think he might lead by example in the sense that, at least he claims he doesn't really read anything. He does a lot of homework and he does a lot of statistical research, but Ned Yost rarely, if ever, reads a single article because he lives the games. He doesn't need to read about the games.
You know, Ted Simmons once told me, he said, if you believe what they write good about you, you have to believe what they write bad about you. So you know what? Don't read it. Don't believe anything.
And this is certainly not to downplay people in the role of covering with the written word or the spoken word. We're all doing our jobs. But at times, I think those of us doing our jobs, when you have a large impact on those on the field, Those are tough times for those players on the field if you let it get to that point.
In this day and age, you see guys reading the paper and looking over the notes and reading the clips in the clubhouse. That was never the case, you know, back 10 years ago. I don't think I ever saw a packet of notes in the clubhouse. I mean, why would you want to scroll through there and say you're 0 for 20? You know you're 0 for 20.
I mean, I was going to say you knew how you were going. It wasn't that you weren't aware.
You just didn't want to read it.
The point is well made. You start believing your own press on the high or the low end. May as well just skip it.
Disregard it all and go out there and play. There's too many, you know, things in this game. People telling you things you can't do. I mean, it's a game of you have to have a positive attitude out there. You got to believe in yourself, even if nobody else does. You just can't be reading that stuff. And again, not to take anything away from the print media.
Well, and you can peel back many layers of coverage too. I mean, especially if you're just using the computer or the internet. I mean, the articles you can read about yourself, you can peel back a layer, and there are fan responses, and good for those fans because it sparks interest and it sparks healthy debate amongst those fans. You know, with emails and message boards, but those are for the fans. And it's good that they're there. 2-0 the count. Be careful here. Too careful. It's high. Edmonds has homered 4 times in his career against Rick Helling in 29 at-bats. He's taking all the way. Of course, Rick Helling put himself on the baseball map in 1998. His boss was Doug Melvin, and he won 20 games for the Texas Rangers. 5 consecutive seasons of double-digit victories for Rick Helling.
Yeah, back in those days, he threw a lot harder and was able to get away with, you know, high fastballs and that big curveball. Doesn't throw as hard anymore. He's added the cutter. And needs to figure out how to throw a quality strike here. The Brewers are already walked 5 in the game. You don't want to help these guys out at all.
Edmonds, a guy hits an awful lot of baseballs in the air, therefore he's tough to double up. Because of that, the runner goes anyway, and he pops it up. They were playing in the pull, so David Bell is on an island over there, and he makes the play. The outfield was playing a bit to pull, and very deep, mentioned very deep, but he was all by his lonesome over there.
Yeah, there's your quality strike, a pitch up and away, and really that's the power for Jim Edmonds, a pitch up and out there. I mean, he's hit many home runs to left field on pitches just like that. Just a little bit behind that last one. You know, that exaggerated, you know, shift. You can see that pitch out away from Edmonds, kind of down the middle, but up in the zone, and that's why he jammed himself.
Strike one to Ronnie Belliard, or I should say just off the plate. 1-0 the count. Ronnie, born in the Bronx, makes his home down in Miami. Brewers picked him in 1994 with their 8th pick out of Central High School in Miami. Can't do a whole lot with that one. Let's hope it's an out. Graffinino called off by Jenkins, and Jeff puts it to bed. I don't know, in hindsight, looking back for you on Ronnie Belliard, you saw him a lot longer than I did. I saw him where no one was very good in 2002. You thought maybe a fairer shake should have been given to Ronnie Belliard at some point.
Yeah, I guess he overstayed his welcome. You know, Davey Lopes and Jerry Royster just saw something in Ronnie that they didn't like. They kept him on the bench. A very athletic player, but you know what? If he's not going all that well, he'll give you the body language as if to, you know, kind of give you the impression that he's not trying 100%, but that's far from the case with Ronnie. He's got a lot of ability. A 300 hitter with the Cleveland Indians, an all-star, and, you know, with body language, when you're going well, it's okay, but when you're struggling, kind of irritates people at times. Kind of like a Jeremy Burnitz.
Another guy you were fond of. You understood him.
Yeah, I mean, Ronnie Belliard's got, he's a gamer. He's going to be out there every day, and sometimes that body language. Jim Edmonds has been accused of the same thing.
2-0 the count. Got to make a pitcher's pitch here to Chris Duncan. Struck out and walked. Bouncing ball, Graffinino. Good looking play. He makes it look easy out there as it got past Prince. All right, the Brewers back into the dugout, down by 1. Out of our Toyota game summary, Albert with number 34 on the year. Big part of this baseball game, Jeff Jenkins with number 10 on the year. Off the foul pole, it's a 1-run game. Jenks helping his team hop off the mat. Another RBI by Brady Clark as the Brewers are back in this ball game. Josh Hancock will go to work. It's a double switch. It looks like So Taguchi is in right field as well.
You see the numbers for Josh Hancock. Very good work so far. 15 walks, only to go with 39 strikeouts. An opponent batting average of .202. Look at the earned run average, a 3-2 record in his 44th game. And we saw Wainwright in yesterday's ball game. He's got good stuff. Hancock not too bad himself.
Taguchi getting a line. Here's David Bell. Of course, his father busy trying to keep things positive in Kansas City. Buddy Bell, very successful major league infielder. His grandfather Gus Bell, a third-generation major leaguer. Gus passed away in 1995. But David had made it to the major leagues, and boy, does he speak highly of his grandfather. Past and present, certainly spirit lives on when you talk to David Bell about his grandfather. Matter of fact, when he was with the Mariners, Stan Williams was the pitching coach for the Mariners, and he had played against Gus, and he called David Gus in honor of his grandfather, and David said there is no bigger compliment than to be called Gus by those that played with and against his grandfather. And he wears that number 25 in honor of his dad. That was his dad's number.
Yeah, Grandpa and Dad, big-time power hitters in their playing careers. Bell's got some power as well.
Right field, hugging the line. And again, the numbers for Anthony Reyes. If his bullpen can really help him, he's in line to win this game, but he needs a lot of help. There you see it.
He pitched pretty well except for that 4th inning. And sometimes that's all it takes. 1 inning, the Brewers able to put a 3-spot on him right back into the game.
One and two the count. Right field, boy, slipping and falling is Taguchi, and he cannot make the play. Now it gets by him. See if David's thinking about 3 again. Now you better not down by a run.
Oh boy, what happened out there?
I think Gus was blowing it around a bit for him.
Yep, Grandpa helping him out there, and so Taguchi just coming into the game on the double switch. It's amazing how that ball finds you when you come out there defensively. He slips, he turns the wrong way and misjudges it, and that'll be a double, but certainly a play that should have been made in the outfield. A lot of times when you talk about bad defense, which the Cardinals have been playing lately, it's not just the errors, it's plays that should have been made that haven't, and there's one of them. So a leadoff double for the Brewers.
Well, that's a play like that, and unfortunately a player slips and falls, so certainly find no humor in that for the Cardinals, but that's a play like that where you think of team error, where there should be something like a team error where it counts against the team, and for the pitcher it comes into play as well. Yeah, but maybe Grandpapa was helping out for sure. 1-0 the count to Damian Miller.
Well, the team error concept, that's certainly something that's been swirled around for many years. You know, in particular, a play like a ground ball to first base and the pitcher doesn't cover first.
Right.
That would be more like a team error. That was just a play that should have been made. I mean, he fell down, but still in all. Can't blame Hancock for that.
2-0 the count.
Basically a sinker slider type pitcher. He's got a nice breaking ball. He'll also throw a changeup from time to time. Doesn't throw too many of them. But his slider's his best pitch.
Two and one. Hancock drafted by the Red Sox as a 5th round pick in 1998 out of Vestavia Hills High School in Alabama. Born in Mississippi, still makes his home in Mississippi. In and off the plate. He actually eventually signed out of Auburn. Went to Vestavia Hills High School, pitched at Auburn. The Brewers drafted him out of Vestavia Hills. Josh Hancock. Released by the Reds just before spring training, really got into full tilt. Now he's in a bit of a hole. So David Bell with a double and a walk to Damian Miller. Rick Helling.
Well, now you have the luxury of allowing Helling to drop down a bunt and advance the base runners for the top of the order. There's activity out in that bullpen from Milwaukee. Helling up there to bunt.
Strike one to Helling.
Not sure how many at-bats Rick Helling has, but didn't look all that comfortable in that first effort. About a year ago, he laid down a sacrifice bunt. Well, the problem is you're here in the 6th inning. You do have the opportunity. You got a couple of base runners on, but you don't want to blow out your entire bench early in the game. Brady Clark's already been used. If you go ahead and use Tony Gwynn or even Cirillo, you're going to short yourself later on. You just have to hope that Helling's going to be able to get it down.
6 sack bunts back in 02 when he was starting every day for Arizona, or every 5th day. Oh and 2 the count. 6 hits and 103 major league at bats. Well, Albert not buying it. Rowland still in on the grass at third. That leaves you scratching your head a bit.
Well, the only thing you don't want to see here is a ground ball. You don't want to turn a double play on. You don't even mind the strikeout in this situation, but still in all. Be nice to be able to, get somebody up there to advance the base runners.
One ball and 2 strikes to Helling. David Bell with a fly ball to right, misjudged, and then Taguchi slipped, ended up as a double. Miller walked. Helling trying to move him on around. The 1-2. 2 and 2 the count. Dropped down underneath that one. Pushed it uphill. Gabe Gross is on deck.
Sometimes you're out there, I would imagine. I've never pitched, but all you're thinking here, Hancock, just throw a strike, and you got to figure you're going to get Helling, but sometimes that's the toughest time to throw a strike. When right down the middle will get it done.
He babied that one in there. You're right, that last one. See what he comes up with here, 2 and 2. Helling drops it down. Albert Pujols. They get one. Good hard slide by Bell. And David Eckstein flipped up into the sky.
Wow. Well, there's some good hard baseball right there. The only problem with that slide is that David Bell did a barrel roll and really not supposed to be able to do that, but had Eckstein been able to stay on his feet, I think they might have been able to get the double play. Tony La Russa is going to go out and argue the fact that David Bell did a barrel roll and knocked over his shortstop. Going out to Dana Demuth, the crew chief.
Well, the video backs up exactly what you're saying.
And can he even touch third base? That's the other issue. Right there, the barrel roll. You're not supposed to be able to do that. You're supposed to go in hard. That's okay. Couple of things there. He did the barrel roll. He brought the arm up there, knocked Eckstein over. And the other issue is the fact that David Bell might not have been able to touch third base.
Now David comes over and he's told, let your manager handle it.
I was surprised that La Russa didn't come out right away. Bell went in high and hard. He got the arm up and took the legs out from under Eckstein. And Tony La Russa is saying that's not legal.
And he's got a point.
That's good baseball, though. You get away with it. Because had Eckstein been able to stay on his feet, had Bell just given up and stopped, it would have been a double play.
A nice job by Albert Pujols shooting it on over to David, who was covering. So now you have Damian Miller and Rick Helling running out there.
3-6 put out at third base. You don't see that very often.
Boy, that certainly was, as the play's developing, as we're talking about, you know, good hard slide, but as you mentioned, upon further review, it had a very different look to it after you watched it live.
And needless to say, not very good speed on the bases from Milwaukee. Is that an understatement?
Well, I think if Gross could find the corners, I think a triple scores at least one. What do you think?
Maybe.
Stay tuned, by the way, on this slide. We'll see what happens. 1-1 the count. 1-2 the count.
Hey, good breaking ball. We talked about that breaking ball from Hancock being his bread and butter to go along with that heavy sinker. That was a dandy.
The 1-2. Couldn't hang on behind home plate. Bennett. Gross hitting .355 this year with runners in scoring position. Wow. 2-2 the count.
Obviously trying to get Gabe Gross with the breaking ball. I mean, Hancock's thrown a fair amount of them to Gabe.
Auburn meets Auburn here, and on 2-2, Gabe drives it. Pretty well struck right field. Taguchi going back. He makes the play, spins, and gets it back in. Good enough speed for Miller to tag and head to third. Put a good stick on that one.
Yes, he did. He got on top of that high fastball after a steady diet of off-speed pitches. Hancock tried to ride the four-seamer up around the letters, and Gross did a nice job getting on top of it, hit it hard. A nice play out there in right.
Really felt like he owed his pitcher a bit, and he certainly paid him back nicely. Here's Tony. Raffanino struck out, hit by a pitch, and grounded out. Again, we remind you of his 2-out RBI last night. Strike one. Born Anthony Graffinino. Played high school baseball on Long Island, East Lip High School. Tyler Johnson, the lefty, warming in the pen. That's for Prince. Pitches outside. Tony talks about his father, Doug, who for 21 years was a narcotics officer. Very challenging and scary job for a young man, but he said Dad would always have time to get me to every single game and every single practice. And he worked as hard as anybody I've ever seen. 1-2.
There's that heavy sinker right there. I mean, right on the inside corner. Not much you're going to do with that.
The 1-2. Wouldn't bite on a breaking ball away. Damian Miller is at third. Over at first is Rick Helen. Outfield pretty shallow. Edmonds plays shallow though. The 2-2. It remains 2-2. We talked yesterday about Graffinino out of high school. Clemson really wanted him to go. He felt like he should start his pro career, but when he got to rookie ball in Pulaski, Tennessee, he was overwhelmed. It was an old rickety ballpark. He called his parents daily and felt like he had made a mistake. The next year he was the MVP of the Pioneer League. So he grew up rather quickly. Now the runner from first can take off. That's Rick Heller. The runner goes, the 3-2, and they are loaded for Prince Fielder. See if LaRussa goes and gets the lefty. He's got warming.
I would imagine he's going to do that. Why else would he be up? You got Prince and then a couple of right-handers, and Prince Fielder, the hottest hitter in all of baseball since the All-Star game. You get him up, get him in. That's why he got him warmed up in case Prince Fielder came to the plate, and here he is.
So with the bases loaded, a lefty-lefty matchup, the game at this point hanging in the balance. We'll step aside. All right, it's Tyler Johnson. And Prince Fielder earlier this year was torrid against left-handed pitching. Then heading into the break, he fell off a bit and really struggled when managers like Tony La Russa would go get the left-hander. You see the numbers overall for Johnson, the specialist. Prince Fielder in his last 11 bats, I should say, against left-handed pitching, has 6 hits, including a homer. That's a .545 clip.
And the thing he does so well is taking the ball to the opposite field in situations like this. 9 home runs against lefties. That's not bad work for the young left-hander. Basically a fastball slider type, normal left-hander coming out of the bullpen.
Bases loaded, 2 outs. Fielder drives it down off the end of the bat. Charging is Jim Edmonds. He dives, he rolls. Did he hold on? He held on. He goes down, but a great play by Jim Edmonds. He played a big drive off the bat of Prince Fielder, but then it died because it was off the end of the bat, and Edmonds can't get up. So unfortunately for the Brewers, Edmonds, the Gold Glover, robs him.
Now, Prince Fielder, I think, thought he had a couple of RBIs, a little bit off the end of the bat into shallow center field. But one thing you have to remember, Jim Edmonds is out there. He doesn't play very deep in center field. As a result, able to make plays like that. Just able to pick it off the ground before it hits the ground. And a nice play by Edmonds. I think he knocked the wind out of himself. He sprinted off the field. He's okay. That would have been nice to drop that one in there. Prince, I think, thought it was in there. Nothing doing. That's what makes Jim Edmonds one of the best in the game. He goes back on the baseball so well that he can play shallow and make catches like that. And it's time for tonight's carsoup.com email the booth question tonight. I'm going to lay this one on you because I think you have a little bit to say about this.
Okay.
Do players like David Bell, Tony Gwynn, and Prince Fielder have an advantage over their other players since their fathers were big leaguers? That from Mike from Merrill.
I think it helps you to get there. I think it helps you to understand what it takes to get there. And I think once you get there, you are not as overwhelmed as the average rookie walking into the clubhouse door. I mean, David Bell, Tony Gwynn, Prince Fielder, very good point. You have Dave Duncan's son, Chris Duncan, got to start tonight. You have Scott Spezio's dad, played in the big leagues, Ed Spezio. Bobby Bonds played one season for the St. Louis Cardinals. We know about his son, Barry Bonds. I think it's that comfort of all the little things that might eat away at you as a rookie. How to handle yourself in the clubhouse, when to speak and when to keep quiet.
That and the fact that I think you have a pretty good coach as you grow up.
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
I mean, they know how to hit all those guys. The three guys that you mentioned, or that I mentioned. Yeah.
0-1 the count on Gary Bennett. And I know that at a lower level for now anyway, and we hope that it grows and he continues to grow as a baseball player, is your son. I mean, you've been able to pass along a lot to him, and he's on his way to test himself in the classroom, but in the college baseball field as well down at Indian Hills Community College.
Yeah, you bet. Very proud of him. And again, you know, he's he knows what the big league environment's all about, and I think it helps.
I mean, when I hear that question, and I'll be brief on this, but certainly far away from the big leagues is where I finished as a player, but I always feel like it helped me as a broadcaster. Understanding the game, understanding a broadcaster's place in that locker room, proper questions to ask. And that one goes over the head of Bennett to the backstop. And even sitting up here, having played the game, both you and I think, realize how very, very difficult this game is.
Yep, you bet. It looks awfully easy up here. You have to remind yourself. That's why you have to go down on that field during batting practice. And see how hard that ball's hit, how hard those guys work, how quick they are, how athletic they are. And one thing that I always talk about, you stand in that outfield. I know most people don't have the opportunity to do that, but you stand in that outfield and you realize how much room there is to cover with only 3 guys and how good of a job that they do.
Saw father and son in that shot in the dugout. You see the acreage that Kevin Minch is assigned to. Nice driven, center field. Surveying that acreage out there, making the play, is Gabe Gross. I was talking with David Bell about that yesterday. I mean, even when you're David Bell and you've been in the big leagues for about a decade, it's still natural for all of us to ask about dad and to ask about granddad. And David said there's no doubt it helped me along the way to get here. But once I got here, I realized as far as staying went, they didn't care who my dad was. But all those little things that I mentioned and some of the things that you mentioned, I think it helps.
The fans might put a little bit more pressure on you when you have a name, a last name that they recognize, like a Gwynn, like a Fielder. Chris and Dave Duncan in the same dugout. That's not something you see every day.
Well, that's a pretty good curveball just off the plate to So Taguchi. Jeff Jenkins out there to make the play for the out, but the big leagues is loaded with players whose dads were farmers, construction workers, engineers, doctors, lawyers, teachers like David Eckstein. Yeah, it takes all types. David Eckstein's dad was a high school teacher. Loved baseball, certainly loved it. But the rule in his house was you could stay up as late as you wanted, watch a baseball game on TV as long as you finished your homework.
And my father was a high school principal. That made for a real exciting high school career for me.
So your dad was your principal?
No.
Okay.
But still, he knew him.
Oh, he knew them all. He had the red phone.
Oh, yeah.
He had the bat phone.
Had the bat phone. How's he doing? Is he there?
Is he there? I didn't realize that. I know we've talked about it. That's outstanding. And again, if you're just joining us, one of the big stories in this ball game tonight is that Bill Castro's troops worked early. I mean early in this game. Ben Sheets lasted just 1 inning. He was removed from the ball game. Tightness in his pecs. 2 innings thrown by Gonzalez. And for Rick Helling, now 3 innings of shutout baseball. Make that hitless shutout baseball.
You're watching Brewers baseball on FSN North.
And tonight's Tavern of the Game winner tonight is Mr. B's in Fox Lake. If the Tavern Contact calls the Brewers by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, 902-4572, they get 40 tickets to a Friday night game in the Miller Lite Beer Pen. It's all for courtesy of the Tavern League of Wisconsin and Miller Lite.
Well, Braden Looper now takes the baseball. Nearly 50 innings of work this year, an ERA just over 4.25. Spent some time over the last few years as a closer along the way. The hard thrower out of Wichita State. When he's on, correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but everything is hard and heavy.
Yeah, big time sinker and his slider. Strikeouts really down for Looper. Only 28 strikeouts and almost 49 innings of work. Apparently not throwing as hard as he used to, but still in all, big, tall right-hander. Good movement on everything. This guy with the Florida Marlins, and early in his career with the Cardinals, averaging a strikeout per inning. Far from that right now.
Third appearance was made earlier this year against Milwaukee. He's made 3 overall against the Brewers. 2 1/3 innings, 6 hits, and a couple of runs. So the Brewers have figured him out, at least this season anyway. Some new Brewers, though, as Kevin Mench sees him, and he takes ball 1. Kevin snapped an 0 for 14 with a single right back up through the box and into center field back in the 5th inning. Well, there's that heavy sinker. Mench over swinging a bit. Jim Edmonds is fine, by the way. Took that tumble and that toss after taking away a couple of runs from the Milwaukee Brewers. Prince might have dumped one in front of him. I think you nailed it. He just knocked the wind out of himself.
Yeah, he rolled over, able to hold on to it and sprinted off the field. I think that he's all right.
Now this crowd really got behind him, so if anything can will you, infuse you with a bit of energy, it's this crowd, any home crowd after a play like that. 2-1 the count on Mench. He's keeping it down. Certainly power potential, certainly power production along the way. The average 162 games for Kevin Mench has him hitting 25 home runs with 85 RBIs. Did he go around? He did. Doug Eddings rings him up. Kevin not too happy with that call.
Yeah, Doug Eddings down there at first base has rung everybody up that has tried to check their swing. Mench didn't like that call, but not too many hitters agree with the first base umpire when they get called out. I don't know about that. Well, that'll show that he did cross the plate. Been very consistent down there, ringing everybody up on that check swing.
Billy takes strike 1. Not too sure about that call. I would imagine that would blind your perspective a bit to home plate when you square around, you get real close to the plate, everything probably feels in.
Yeah, well, anytime you move around in that box, when your head moves, you can't follow the baseball.
Breaking ball over the outside corner. 0-2 the count.
First pitch on the inside corner. Second pitch is slider on the outside corner. Tough to hit either one of them.
Hall 1 for 5 with the double and a strikeout in his career against Looper. Another hard slider jumps out of the zone. 1-2 the count. Looper will be 32 years old a couple of days before Halloween this fall. Out of Weatherford, Oklahoma. As we mentioned, pitched at Wichita State. He's got that Wichita State delivery. Good heavy sink. A lot of the pitchers coming out of that program and throwing like that.
And 93 miles per hour with a fastball, 88 with the slider. That's good stuff. You wonder why he doesn't strike more hitters out. I would imagine getting behind in the count, one of the issues.
Base hit right field. A good at bat for Bill Hall. He's going to make So Taguchi get it back in there. So there you go. And here's Jeff Jenkins. Maybe this will stir up a little bit more magic for Jenks. Home run number 10 on the year.
Yeah, Reyes tried to slip a fastball in on him, left it out over the plate, and Jenks just able to keep it inside that foul pole. Hit the screen, and that brought the Brewers to within a 4-2. Freddie Clark would drive in another run in that inning, and that's been it. Hasn't been a run scored since the fourth.
One and 0 the count. Jenks has 7 career at bats against Looper, 2 for 7 with a walk and a strikeout. One ball and 1 strike the count. We talked about the fact that Brett's brother gave him a phone call and sparked a little bit of a change in the grip. But let's not overlook the fact, too, that Butch Weiniger on a daily basis has been working with Jeff. Sometimes it takes a family member to push things over the edge.
Yeah.
A lot of the similar things that Butch has been sharing. One and 1 the count.
And that's the thing about a hitting coach. I mean, you work with a guy every day for, what is it, 3 years now with Butch Weiniger, and Jeff's brother gets all the credit. Doesn't seem fair, does it? Butch doesn't care as long as he gets hits.
There goes Billy. He had a big jump. The throw by Bennett is not in time. Stay there. Stein tried to deke him a bit. He calls for time and a stolen base for Bill Hall. Number 6 on the year. He's been caught 6 times.
Yeah, Looper with that high leg kick. I mean, he's all arms and legs. Takes a while to get rid of it, and Bill Hall able to take advantage of that. Slow to the plate. Not a bad throw from Bennett. Billy stole that one on the pitcher. There you see it off the outside corner. Good throw from Bennett. Just a little bit high. They wouldn't have had him anyway. That's a big stolen base. Not only is he in scoring position, but now a ground ball. Not going to be able to turn the double play. Now they will.
They will put Jeff Jenkins on. Go after David Bell, who has had a little bit of luck, but has put the ball in play and made them make plays. And because of that, with some help out and right by So Taguchi and by Chris Duncan, who dove for a ball he probably should have played on a hot. Bell with a triple and a double tonight.
That's the 10th walk of the ball game. 5 by the Brewers, 5 by the Cardinals.
Bell is hearing it. Here's in the 6th inning that hard slide.
And first and second, a bunt. by Rick Helling, a barrel roll. He gets the arm up there, knocks Eckstein on the ground, not able to turn that double play.
Time was called, time was given, and Looper fires it home. This crowd already on Bell a bit for that hard slide. There is to be retribution from that other dugout. It certainly can't be now. You're up by a run. You have the tying run at second, the go-ahead run at first.
This day and age, I mean, you're hard-pressed to find good hard baseball, but still in all, the umpires didn't see anything wrong with it. Shouldn't be any retribution for that.
Right back through the box. Looper gets one on to first. The double play. That's how you get even. Brewers come up empty. Boy, oh boy. Danny Kolb takes the baseball. And part of a double switch, Jeff Cirillo also comes in and plays third base now. And with an ERA just a touch over 5.5 this year. In 36 appearances. Again, when he's on his game, everything is heavy and sinking. Ground ball outs. Kolb will now, or the pitcher spot I should say, will be in the 7th slot. And Jeff Cirillo will bat 9th.
Yeah, nice job by Dan Kolb last night. Came in with 2 outs in the 6th inning and was able to get a pop-up and left the bases loaded. So 3 inherited runners for Danny Kolb last night, all stranded.
That was a big part of 5 Brewers relievers pitching their club to victory. Again, I mean, certainly don't want to overlook what the bullpen has done again tonight. Gonzalez called upon in short work, and his outing certainly not flawless as he allowed those 3 earned runs. But for Rick Helling, 3 hitless innings. I mean, keeping his team right here, and his team has stranded 10, and his team certainly has had an opportunity to at least tie this game. Hit hard by Spezio, but that's an out.
Yeah, for a couple of innings now, it's been 1 hit that the Brewers have been short. They might have tied it or even gone ahead. Nice play by Jim Edmonds, saved the lead for the Cardinals a couple of innings ago.
Yeah, Helling walked to Perry through 40 pitches in 3 hitless innings. A lot of things have to happen, but certainly this is why you get voted pitcher of the month, when people look back on you in outings like that for Rick Helling.
He faced 1 over the minimum for 3 innings. Well done. Walked 2. Got out of the 4th inning with a double play ball.
For the Cardinals, it's been Reyes, Hancock, Johnson, and Looper. Albert singled back in the 1st inning. Hit a 2-run homer in the 3rd. Bouncing ball, having position perfectly. Graffinino erases Albert Pujols.
And the Cardinals haven't had a man in scoring position since the 3rd inning. Bullpen doing a nice job after that inning, just like they did last night.
Scott Rowland with a double and an RBI back in the 1st inning. Takes a sinking fastball low from Danny. That one again low. Kolb a couple of years ago, that save he had for Milwaukee. 39 saves in 2004. ERA of 2.98. He was an all-star that year. Talk about the sinker and how big it was. That year he had 122 groundouts, 35 flyouts. Broke his bat. Is someone going to get there? Billy Hall going back. Hall with the play.
Wow.
Touchdown, Brewers.
All right, well done, Billy Hall. I'll tell you, he's made that play many times this year. Nice.
Certainly an outstanding high school football player in Nettleton, Mississippi, Bill Hall. Part of our Menards game reset. 4 hitless and scoreless innings for Helling and Cole. Ben Sheets leaving the game with some tightness in the pectoral muscle. And the Brewers still in this game, still with a chance at least to tie it here in this at bat. Damian Miller pops it up. And the play is made out there by Ronnie Belliard. An outstanding play by Bill Hall to end the inning, making sure that run of hitless innings continued. And for Bill Hall, it's no big surprise. We talked with him yesterday about making all those spectacular plays.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of athleticism, no doubt, but you just, I don't know, it's things that I don't even control. Like when I make those plays, it's not like I'm trying to do it, or I don't even know what I'm going to do sometimes. I don't know, I just seem to put my body in position to make the play and get up and make the throw. And I don't even know how I do it sometimes. It kind of humbles me when I watch it on TV. It's like I don't even know what I was thinking. I wasn't thinking anything when I done it. So it's always fun to make those plays, but you know, it's not like I'm going out there trying to do them. I just kind of let them happen.
Just good instincts, basically. I mean, good instincts, knowing which way to turn and how fast to go, when to look up and hold on to that baseball. Ozzie Smith was able to do it.
And that was Billy's favorite player growing up, was Ozzie Smith. Jeff Cirillo makes it tough on David Eckstein, but Eckstein throws him out.
And you talk to Dale Swaim about, you know, Ricky Weeks and, you know, Bill Hall and their abilities, and they always use the phrase the fast twitch fibers, which means they're very quick. Their natural instinct is very quick to the baseball. They don't have to think about what they're doing. So whatever it means, you know, the Brewers infield coach feels as though both of those guys up the middle, fast twitch fibers, is what separates them from a lot of players. I'll have to ask him what he means.
Well, we do know this, that for Bill Hall, it allowed him to be one heck of a high school football player. 1, 2, 3, go the Brewers. Glad to have you back here in St. Louis. 4-3, St. Louis on top as we move along into the bottom half of inning number 8.
Sit in the Kohl's family sections at Miller Park, and you can win a $250 Kohl's gift card. One family will win each Friday and Saturday home game. Call 902-4000 or visit MilwaukeeBrewers.com for tickets. Kohl's, expect great things.
Well, the Brewers trying to keep it at a 0. That infield position to pull for Jim Edmonds. Dan Cole fires it in there, back to the screen it goes. Positioning of the infield, that's Dale Swaim's assignment, correct?
Yes, it is. Outfield responsibility is Davey Nelson.
And the vice president over both would be the bench coach, Robin Yount. Ed Yost very good at delegating roles inside of that dugout to his staff. I would imagine it makes it easy when you look to your bench coach, and he is a well-recognized Hall of Famer who has a passion for this game like Robin. Inside corner, 1-2. We noted in spring training the relationship between the two, how starting at about 5:30 in the morning, Yost and Yount would be seen, whether it was over a cup of coffee or heading out to a practice diamond somewhere. They were always in conversation about the team.
Yeah, when you're talking about, you know, knowing the philosophy and how to play defensively on the infield and the outfield, not bad to have an MVP as a shortstop and as a center fielder on your bench.
And a Hall of Famer to boot. As a matter of fact, a special day for Wisconsin sports. When you talk about Wisconsin sport icons, Reggie White is now a member of Pro Football's Hall of Fame. Warren Moon, Troy Aikman, John Madden, Rayfield Wright, and Harry Carson also going in Canton, Ohio. But a special day for Green Bay Packer fans and Wisconsin sports fans all around.
Really turned that franchise around, didn't he, Reggie White? Some say if he didn't come to Green Bay, a lot of those other big-time free agents would not have followed.
0-2 the count on Ronnie Belliard. Never been to Canton? Been to that Pro Football Hall of Fame?
No, I haven't. Nope.
I went as a youngster, and at the time wasn't a large football fan. Was baseball all the time, and really it was a neat place to go. It opened my eyes. I think anytime you go anywhere, we're the best of the best, no matter the sport, you can't help but stand in awe.
I've been to the Baseball Hall of Fame a couple of times. The Brewers played in that Hall of Fame game during the Hall of Fame inductions for Kirby Puckett.
You still play that game?
I don't know.
Okay. I'd like to be called upon to go to that game
They
again.
did a few years ago. The Brewers played the Toronto Blue Jays.
At Doubleday Field, right? Isn't that what they call it there in Cooperstown?
You bet.
Intimate ballpark. Pop flies get out pretty easily there.
But the Baseball Hall of Fame is a must. You've got to go see that.
I found myself longing to go back. 2-2 the count. Out to Prince Fielder. Prince will go to the bag and beat the streaking Ronnie Belliard. Is Ringhausen warming in the bullpen for the St. Louis Cardinals? We spoke yesterday about the tremendous run that he is on. Really pitching well of late. Two saves shy of his 6th 30-save season.
He's got number 2, 3, and 4 in the Brewers' order to contend with in the top of the 9th. Important for Dan Cole to get this final out.
It's John Rodriguez pinch hitting. He's a guy who waited a long time in the minor leagues in the New York Yankees system before getting his shot here in St. Louis. Originally was in the starting lineup tonight. But that ankle not all the way back. He was sliding into second last Sunday 6 days ago and came up lame with that ankle and is trying to get healthy. La Russa deciding last minute to give him one more day as a starter. So for is Ringhausen, again, as you mentioned, the Milwaukee Brewers will look to Tony Graffinino, who at least worst case scenario will give you a good quality at bat and make Izzy earn it. And then you've got Prince Fielder to follow, and Kevin Mensch. Got to get back in that dugout though. 3-1 the count. So a walk to Rodriguez, and here's Bennett. Jeff Weaver will now run because of the ankle of Rodriguez. You know you're scuffling when a smattering of booze raised down on you as a pinch runner. Thanks a lot, Skip.
Yeah.
Let me just stay inside of that dugout.
He's got about a 3.5-foot lead. I'm expecting him to do anything, but I guess Rodriguez just can't run at all.
Angels brought him in. He was unable to get the job done. He was replaced by his brother Jared, who is just about perfect in that rotation for the Angels. Come on now, Danny. Got to find the zone. 2-0 the count.
Yeah, Weaver combined between the Angels and the Cardinals is 4-12. ERA at about 7.
Jeff Weaver will take the mound Monday at Cincinnati. As a matter of fact, an interesting series, no doubt about it, for the Cincinnati Reds as they host the St. Louis Cardinals for 4 in Cincy. Cincy's doing their best, promoting the club all around town. They're trying to pack the house there. As Cardinals fans travel well.
Yeah, Cincinnati with a big win today over Atlanta.
Shot right to Bill Hall. One last chance for the Brewers. Raffanino, Fielder, and Mensch against Jason Isringhausen. Actually, it's funny, as Izzy goes to work, mine's back in my hotel room. Been using it as a water bottle. I mean, I got it as a promo, but it's fabulous.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, an opponent batting average of 189 or 198 for Jason Isringhausen, 28 out of 35. He has stumbled at times. Bit of an adjustment in the outfield. With Encarnacion taking over in right, Taguchi in left.
Since July 1st, it has been quite a run for the man on the mound. In 14 games, he is 4 of 5 in saves, and his ERA since July 1st, 0.60. The Brewers are leaning on the fact that on April 13th they hung a loss on Jason Isringhausen. Isringhausen came in a tie game, and the Brewers rallied to win it by a score of 4-3, beating Isringhausen on a Carlos Lee home run. 2-1 the count.
And not a guy that's overpowering. He's got a very good breaking ball. Good overhand curveball. He'll throw a slider. And locates his fastball pretty well.
39th career appearance against Milwaukee. Went after what might have been ball 3, but it certainly looked good to Graffinino. And Albert Pujols records the first out. They're looking down for that cutter. It comes up about eye high. It probably looks very good.
Yep.
That's what he wants you to think.
That ball looks awfully good when it's up in the strike zone because it's so close to the eyes. Looks big, but very tough to get on top of. Yeah, that was ball 3, but a tough pitch to lay off of.
Certainly home run power here for Prince Fielder. He is 0 for 3 with a walk. And it was Prince with the bases loaded. Hit one down off the end of the bat, nearly dumped it in, but Jim Edmonds with a dive and a roll and a great play took away at least a couple of runs for Milwaukee. And that happened back in the 6th inning.
Yep. Play of the game so far.
In on his hands, boy, were they playing him to pull, and in on the outfield comes Ronnie Belliard, 2 outs. He was playing him to pull and 3 steps on the grass. I mean, they're playing him like David Ortiz out there. It's an out, though, and an out is an out. And a crowd is a crowd, and another sold-out crowd tonight of 43,299 come to their feet. They're not used to losing a lot. This club has lost 8 consecutive games. They have not lost 9 in a row since 1980. Brewers with one last chance to keep hope alive. Kevin Mensch 1 for 4. High pop. This crowd now really comes alive. That's David Eckstein, and the losing streak is over. Albert Pujols, our Time Warner Cable player of the game. 2 for 4 with a ringing home run. And to be honest with you, when Pujols hit that homer back in the 3rd, it looked like the route was on. Little did we know that with Ben Sheets lost from the game, Bill, that the bullpen would keep the Brewers in it all night long. They just couldn't come up with the timely hits.
Well, outstanding work by everybody coming out of that bullpen. A rough outing, though, for Gonzalez, who gave up a 3 spot in the 3rd inning. But after that, the Cardinals really could not muster a base hit. The only thing they could do was get 3 walks. That was about it. Brewers had many opportunities tonight. Just couldn't get that big hit.
Brewers Live post-game show right after this on FSN North.